So I'm not counting days anymore. This week has been really big, really big. I passed the black serpent, the dark serpent, which is also known as the black rope. It's the layer of mucoid plaque that sits in the intestine. It's where all the parasites live. It's where they feed. It's where they lay their eggs. It's their ecosystem, basically. And it's a really, really big deal that this has come out. And then about 24 hours later, I go to bed normally at 8:30. I go to bed early and I get up early. I get up at like 4 a.m. And I woke up at 11 o'clock, really agitated. And I got out of bed and I went downstairs and I made avocado on toast and I ate it. And there was no thought process. There was no conscious awareness. Like I knew what I was doing, but there was no conversation. And I went back to bed. And the next day I started to notice my thought patterns. So the first thought pattern that kind of played out was, no one has to know. Nobody knows. You can just carry on. You've only got to get till Monday. Monday you finish and you're home free. Don't need to tell anyone. But I knew that I could not get on one of these videos and not tell the truth. That's what I stand for. That's what I'm here for. Be in your truth, no matter how uncomfortable. And yes, it's real easy to show up in your truth when everything's great, I'm amazing. But when you're like, fuck, like what was that? Like, yeah, it's uncomfortable. But I knew that I couldn't get on here and not be in that. So then I went through kind of the thought process of, actually speaking the truth. The thought patterns of feeling like a failure or, people's judgments, or even people being like, oh, it's fine. You've done so well. You've done, 82 days. Like, that's amazing. Pat yourself on the back and on you go. Just kind of observing, what I thought would come from it. So then I decided to voice note my teacher because I didn't want her to hear it on here. So I voice noted my teacher. And after I'd sent the message, I had kind of noticed, since that happened, I continued juicing. And one of the patterns through my whole life was if I set myself a task and I failed, I'd give up. Many times when I was trying to quit smoking, I'd be like, I finished, I quit smoking. And then like 2 hours later, I'd be like, oh, well, there's no point trying anymore. And I'd just completely give up. And that's been a pattern throughout my whole life. And this didn't happen this time. I was like, oh, okay. Maybe that's the gift in this. And then the next day, the realization started to come in. I realized that the dark serpent passing out of my system the day before, any parasites left will be dying and trying to get me to eat. And what was interesting with this, when I've experienced the parasites trying to get me to eat before, the first was like around day 17, and out of nowhere, these cravings for junk food. But there was a thought process going on. Like I was aware, oh wow, I'm craving junk food. Like, what is that? The second time I think was about day 30 when I just was like, fuck this, I'm done. I'm going to eat. And I went to the fridge and I pulled some stuff out and I looked at it and I was like, I'm not doing that. I put it away. Whereas this time there was no thought process. There was nothing. It was almost like my mind was blocked from having a conversation with myself. There was no like, oh, this isn't a good idea. This can actually be really damaging for your digestive system. Maybe have some fruit instead. Maybe have something that's within the guidelines of breaking your fast. There was none of that. It was just, I'm doing this. and there was no thought process. It was almost like sleepwalking, but I was fully aware of what I was doing. It was, so I kind of thought about that, and then I had a huge realization, or a few huge realizations, that even though I have fully committed to this process, and I felt like I had fully surrendered to this experience, without realizing that I'd done it within parameters. So we go to Italy in 5 weeks. 5 weeks tomorrow. Italy and England. It's our first time taking the kids on a big overseas trip. It's the first time I've done a long haul trip since 2007. Like, it's a huge trip, a huge family trip. And, I was like, okay, I'm going to do my cleanse. I've got 5 weeks to reintegrate food so that I can eat what I want in Italy. Because I can't go to Italy and not have pizza and pasta and champagne and ice cream and all the things that I told myself I need in order to enjoy this experience. And it was this huge realization of like, wow, like I haven't fully given myself to this experience of whatever it needs to be. It was like, get to Monday, start integrating, and be ready for your trip. And just noticing all of these beliefs I was holding around what I needed to enjoy this trip. And it was crazy because I have never felt better. These last few months, I have never felt more joy, more alive, more vibrant, more connected to life, more connected to my family. Like, I don't need any of that. I don't need any of that. So that was the first realization. And in that moment, I just went, you know what? I'm letting it go. I'm letting it all go. I'm letting go of the trip. It will be whatever it needs to be. If I'm juicing and just doing fruits and veg on that trip, so be it. I'm letting it go. Because unless I let it go, I can't fully see what I need to. And the other thing that I realized was that my intention for this cleanse was freedom. Freedom of choice. Now, what happened the other day was not freedom. It was not my choice. Yes, I was aware of what I was doing. Yes, I chose to get out of bed and come downstairs, but there was no conscious awareness with it. It was like an out-of-body experience. That wasn't freedom. And if I want true freedom, I need to go deeper. So what I am doing right now, and what actually came through, was just watermelon juice. No other juices. We're going to mono juice, single juice. And then we're going into a dry fast with no end date. Like, I'm fucking killing these parasites. I will not be controlled by anybody. And anyone who knows me should know that. I will not be controlled. So that was my week. It was so big, and it would have been very easy for me to go into, I failed. We see success as this line of A to B. Here's your goal. You didn't make it. Whereas I know that every single thing that comes to you in your life is for you. It is a learning. It is there to show you something. And when we are open to looking at that, we don't see failure. I don't feel like I failed at all. I'm still on this journey. This is part of my experience. And this actually feels like one of the biggest realizations and the biggest shifts that I'm having in this. Like, this feels huge. And I'm sure there's going to be many more layers to it. But that's where I am. No more counting days. We're just going.